Good evening, friends. सभी को मेरा हार्दिक अभिनंदन. I hope I'm audible, sir.
Very much audible, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Anil, sir. It gives me great pleasure to start with another Swadhyaya series. And the book that we are going to begin with today is very close to my heart because it has been gifted by our Reverend Brahmrishi Pitama Patri, sir. And this book is The Luminous Landscape of the Afterlife. And it still holds the presence of Patri sir for me in person as he uh, shared this book with me in the year 2021 in the month of August at Shrivar Pyramid. So I think
Thank you very much, ma'am. It is much awaited Swadhyaya session for all of us, and we've been waiting for this session. And since you said we'll start from 12, so we've been waiting for it. A lot of us are very much excited to, we've been waiting for this session, ma'am. So please continue. And thank you very much, masters, for joining us tonight for this wonderful session. Over to you, Kiran, ma'am.
yes, sir. I was sharing the introduction. Was it audible to you? I think it's
perfectly all right. Perfectly all right, ma'am.
Oh, okay. So thank you so much, sir. And let us begin with the Swadhyaya. First of all, bestowing my humble namaskars at the holy feet of Brahmrishi Pitama Patri sir, under whose guidance we are continuing with our meditation, Swadhyaya, and Sajjan Sangatya. So, as I said, this book is basically about what we are going to do after death, what happens to the soul. So it begins with the foreword given by Suzanne Giesman. She's the author of 13 books, including Messages of Hope. And she's the founder of The Awakened Way, a path to knowing who we are and why we are here. As Patri sir used to say, what is the purpose of our life? So that is the mission that he has asked us to ponder upon rather than just leading our lives, eating, sleeping, enjoying, there is a specific purpose for each soul when it takes a birth, and what we are here for. So, the forward here by Suzanne says that very few people travel to a new destination without some idea of what awaits them. Has it ever happened? It begins with a question that when is the last time you planned a trip to an unfamiliar place? So, as I ask all the participants here, that whenever we go somewhere, we first of all decide the destination, and then we make so much of plannings as to how we are going to go there, how we are going to, which mode of transport we are going to take, where we are going to stay. So there's lots of planning involved whenever we have to travel. But unfortunately, the same cannot be said of the journey across the wheel. That is, there are many speculations, basically, with most of the spiritual writers, that what happens after death. And people say that the soul travels, there is afterlife, there is rebirth. But whom to rely upon? Does it actually has that kind of a proof or something? Yes. As the book will proceed, it's being suggested uh, by the writer and by the uh, person who has given this forward, that is Suzanne. She says that you rely upon your heart center and see if it reverberates with you. And that is the truth that actually holds for you. So, Suzanne says that even though no human can avoid the ultimate malfunction of the physical body, that is, when the body stops working, death is both an unpopular and uncomfortable topic of the conversation. So, I think we all are going to agree that whenever we talk of death, it's a kind of, hush hush topic, and people avoid talking about it and they say that let's talk something better rather than death. But with Patri sir, I think all the spiritual members are now comfortable with it, and they say that death is actually a celebration. But here, as we begin with the book, I'll go through what Suzanne says, that the subject is often avoided at all costs, even if such head in the sand behavior results in emotional discomfort and important decisions left unmade in one's final hours. Because if you're not planning for the D Day, then it creates a lots of problems for the people who are left behind. So here, Suzanne mentions the Tibetan Book of the Dead and the Egyptian Book of the Dead, as they kind of suggest what happens in the afterlife. And the cause of people avoiding this topic may be because of the ignorance, but there are some writers who have suggested. And as we can see on the screen, thank you, Anil sir, for showing this picture on the screen. Here we can see the Tibetan illustration of the peaceful and wrathful deities of the postmortem intermediate state that is called the Bardo. Some Tibetan Buddhists hold that when a being goes through the intermediate state, they will have visions of various deities. So, as we can see here, that means there are some sort of indications that when a soul leaves the planet Earth and takes rebirth again, there is that state, that intermediate state of Bardo. And here comes the subject of Matthew and Jordan McKay. The writer of the book is Matthew McKay. And as he reveals in the luminous landscape of the afterlife, we are taking up this much unpopular subject due to, maybe it's due to the heavy subject matter or the books written in a very heavy writing style. The next phase of the soul's travels which remain as a great mystery for people, is being solved by Matthew McKay in this book. It's written in a very simplified language and as channeled by his son, Jordan McKay. It is actually a very clear information, concise, modern day guide to the afterlife, and that was received through the merged minds of father and son through a process called channeling. Now, if many of us don't know what is channeling, it is also being described in the book in the author's introduction, which we are coming forward to. Jordan provided the dictation here, and his father Matthew served as the scribe. And here we may conclude that maybe it is because the father was so much psychologically attached to the son that the content may have some sort of his father's imaginations, probably, that are included. But here Suzanne says that we cannot prove otherwise, but I wager that Matthew, an eminent psychologist, could provide quite a convincing argument to the contrary. So, as we go through the book, here she says, whether you believe what he says is your choice, but happily, your body has a built in truth meter that helps you discern what information you can trust. That is what all of us know, and in common language, we call intuition. So, as you read Jordan's words, Suzanne says, as you read Jordan's words, pay attention to the area around your heart and solar plexus to perform what I call the heart test. If the information rings true, you will experience a feeling of openness and lightness with no constriction. If the information does not resonate with you, this area will reflexively tighten. So, what is the area that is being talked about? Is the area at the center of your heart and the solar plexus, that is near the navel. And in between this area, you are going to feel some sort of an openness and lightness without any constriction. There's quite a lot of information in the book that may well challenge your cherished beliefs. And a wise woman once told me that if our teachers don't make us squirm, they aren't doing their job. So, in the luminous landscape of the afterlife, Jordan takes the role of the teacher or the guide to the afterlife. And obviously, when we talk about such challenging beliefs, there might be some sort of discomfort. And as this happens, you may take a pause, take a few deep breaths. And here, Suzanne says that I came to appreciate the gift that channeling affords us, a window to a love filled reality that is as close as our breath and ultimately more familiar than our earthly homes. So, we are going to find that how much we love our homes and how much we cherish our homes and how comfort that our homes provide us on this earth. There is a much better home, divine home, that is waiting for us. So, as a medium who has been tested by respected research scientists, Suzanne says that she had a personal experience of communicating with thousands of souls like Jordan. And the preponderance of the evidence from those who have passed allows me to assure you that this life is not all there is. So, death is merely a transition. This is basically the revelation that Suzanne provides before we start reading the book, that death is merely a transition to another chapter in our eternal existence as a soul. So, Suzanne insists that the readers should prepare to take a journey with Jordan to a land that seems at times stunningly similar to the one you now experience, yet is far less judgmental and infinitely more loving. So many of the writers who've already written books on life after death have a common notion that as we live on the planet Earth, similar is the life after death, and there is a kind of another life wherein, suppose the people who are working here as carpenters, they are also working there in that same manner. So they are having the same vocations. But it is somewhat similar, and we see that it is a kind of a school. So there also people are working there. They have the similar kind of experiences there, but still it is less judgmental and infinitely more loving. Modern readers are more open to learning from various sources what awaits us without being told what to believe. So, as Jordan states, this is the ultimate self help guide. So, again, the readers are requested to see what stands for their own experience as we go through the book. And reading these pages, one has the distinct awareness that this is no longer the young man his father knew when Jordan walked in physical form, but an expanded version of Matthew's son. So we have a very limited kind of a life when we are here on earth. And this is Jordan's soul talking to you. And if you listen ever so carefully, you will hear him speaking soul to soul. So, friends, with this, let us begin with the book. As I told you that there are a few terms which we are going to discuss, which are given in the author's introduction. So Matthew McKay tells us about the channeling process, about how he began with the channeling process, the kind of fear that is associated with death, and post-death navigation, the life purpose that we carry, and creating a new book of the dead. So Matthew McKay says that he had been with Jordan for 34 years of life, although at the age of 23, Jordan was being accosted by men who probably wanted to steal his bike, and they shot him in the back. And when Jordan died, uh, Matthew had no belief that the dead could talk to us. At best, they seemed gone into the other world, as the common notion, as we all feel that once the physical body dies, the life ends, and there is only loss and grief and the deafening thunder of, some soul vacating the body that gives you an endless sense of grief and pain. But then Jordan started speaking to me, Matthew says. At first, only in dreams, but then through mediums, through a process called induced after death communication. And through the gift of channeled writing, he told me that he was there. So, as a curious writer, as a curious reader, you must be wondering whether it was just a figment of imagination for the father that he has lost his son, and maybe he is in grief. That is why he's not able to forget his son's presence or his son's memories. Here, Matthew says, he has given me something I could never hope for. Obviously, when our loved ones die, we are tempted to find where they have gone, why they have left us. And it's a very painful moment. And to tell you the truth, this was the painful moment in which uh, I received this book from Patri sir. And I lost my father in April 2021. And I was also going through the same phase. And Patri sir said uh, very excitedly, "You want to know where your father has gone?" And I said, "Yes." And why is he not talking to me? Where has he gone? I want to know. And Patri sir took out this book from his bag and handed it over to me and said, "This book is going to tell you where your father has gone." And here, Matthew McKay says that he has given me something I could never have hoped for. with the feeling that I personally also can relate to, that a window into the world of spirit, an invitation to listen at the curtain between worlds that we were talking about, the bardo, and a clear awareness that death is neither an end nor even a loss. So it is merely the time when we finally remember who we are and where our home is. So, with this, Matthew McKay defines the channeling process, and he says after the deep grief that Jordan had left him, that I cannot touch him, I cannot speak to him, uh, I was just wondering whether I would be able to ever know where my son has left. And he says his spirit, the spirit representing him in this book, doesn't take his place and can't speak for the young man as he would have spoken. If we feel that as a person he would be talking to us, Matthew McKay specifies this, that he won't be talking like a physical body speaking. The voice speaks for a larger entity that was there before Jordan was born, even as it is there after death. So Jordan's voice has been added to that being, but the entity is timeless, views the universe and his own existence from that perspective. So here the things are conveyed as a spirit which has a larger meaning than the personal relationship between the father and the son. It has a universal meaning, an eternal wisdom that doesn't depend on the relationship between Jordan and Matthew, but depends on the soul knowledge and that discarnate beings as convey to the living. That said, there is no direct speech. If we talk about the channeling process, there is no direct speech or a common language between the dead and the living. Meanings pass from Jordan's spiritual field, where he is now, to my spiritual field, where I am now. And then they pass through my brain into the written language. Of course, that language is mine, but it isn't mine instead of Jordan's. It is a language generated out of our living relationship. Jordan can only communicate his radically different experience in terms humans understand. And I can only translate it into terms I understand. Channeling is not art or literature or ethnography, as there are always filters and contamination. And it is not dictation, it is a collaboration and convergent soul speak. So if we find that as we are talking, the souls talk, no, it is not like that. It's not a direct communication. It is not as if Jordan was speaking and Matthew McKay was listening. Here it is very clearly told that it is the spiritual field of Jordan that is talking to the spiritual field of his father. So he is, it's not a drawing or some sort of an art or something written that is given to him. So there is still the question, how do you know these words are really from Jordan and not from my own projections? Remember, Matthew McKay, as we are told, was a psychologist. So he says, maybe it is my wishful thinking for my son that I'm not able to forget him, that I'm getting these imaginations. So there are two different answers to this basic question. The first is that I know Jordan so well that I recognize his voice, the participation of his separate and special ego in language, tone, style, and humor. I also recognize the voice is not my own at the same time that I feel it as Jordan. He's saying things I don't know, or even come close to knowing in the way Jordan would say them. There is a gut, dead reckoning to our exchange. In addition, numerous psychics have independently told me about their own communications with Jordan and the book he was writing. Their information matched the text I received. So here Matthew McKay specifies that it's not only what I was listening to Jordan as a father, no. He was listening to Jordan as a spiritual entity in a similar manner in which the other psychics also were able to listen to Jordan's soul calling. The second answer is it isn't Jordan, meaning it isn't only my son who knows himself as Jordan. The voice is a larger soul or spirit being who knows himself as many things, one of them being Jordan. That is the part that is speaking to me. We have only one role that we have here as father and son. And as a spiritual entity, he is uh, having different kinds of dimensions. Not because Jordan lacked something, but because he was engaged in living the life of a boy and then a young man in California. The soul speaking to me includes Jordan in its own field of identities, lifetimes, and knowledge. So it's a kind of a subset. So we have Jordan as a subset of the bigger Jordan. So Jordan talking to Matthew is not just his son, but he is able to communicate with him as he knows his son. I respect Jordan's integrity as much as I respect and love and miss him. So I won't assign this book to him if I didn't experience the authenticity of his signature. I'm simply saying to take this afterlife guide as an expression of our love for each other in continuing to work together on a common project. It is a gift to you so that you may know death as mere punctuation in the eternal life of your soul. So, this summarizes the whole theme of the book that you will be able to know that death is not the end, but it is just a punctuation mark in your eternal life as a soul. And he says that Jordan is not just my son. I respect his identity as that ultimate soul. And before we contribute to read this book or I start writing this book, I have to take permission for, sharing all this information. How we began. Our first conversations via channeled writing took the form of reassurance that Jordan was happy and in a good place. But that quickly changed into deeper explorations of the nature of time. So, this is the one most common experience that even general people have that once they lose their loved ones, they get some dreams or some sort of trance like state in which they come to know that their loved ones are in a happy state and they are in a good place rather than from the tumults out here on this planet. Um, Deeper explorations like the reasons we incarnate, the purpose of physical universe, the relationship between individual souls and the divine. There are lots of things that are discussed in the book. About 5 years into our channeled exchanges, Jordan decided we should write a book. So it's not just that one fine day Matthew got a dream and he started writing the book. It's about 5 years that they were undergoing this channeling process and exchanging all this information. And then Jordan decided that we should write a book together as father and son. Within a few minutes, he had outlined all the chapters, and the first book, Seeking Jordan, came out. And later, he conceived and developed with me a set of spiritual practices to help trauma victims find their life purpose and use the concept of wise mind for decision making. This became the next book that was The New Happiness. And after finishing, Jordan told me that the fear of death and the struggle souls frequently face as they transition can change. Souls need support, knowledge, reassurance as they contemplate death and what awaits them. Knowledge and preparation, Jordan says, could fundamentally change how we view and experience our transition to the afterlife. And this brings us back to the question that we read in the forward that if we are going to some destination, which we don't know, we are not prepared for, then it leads to haywire. So, obviously, we are talking about the fear of death here, that we don't know what's going to happen. So, here we are going to get the knowledge and the preparation. Matthew McKay says that for all that fear of death, I yearned for the truth, whatever it was. I wanted to pierce the mystery of death to see what was on the other side. And obviously, all of us are also equally curious. Most of us, unless we are cocooned in absolute beliefs, want this. We want to know what happens when our breath stops, when the body no longer holds us. The fear of death impacts the soul in two ways. First, it turns into a battle of avoidance. Some may avoid the fear of death through a pursuit of pleasure and distraction, or perhaps money, power, or prestige, as we call addictions. Uh, Fear of numbing, drugging, running, denying, embracing myths, or creating something we hope will survive us. And Matthew says, I have done them all. The fear of death also changes our actual experience of death. The fear makes us deaf and blind to what exists in the afterlife. Fear eclipses love and our relationship to all the souls who died before us. Fear can cause us to hallucinate terrifying scenes of judgment or hell and miss what's really present after death. So, when we have this fear, we are very much convinced with all the stories related to death, that what's going to happen in heaven and hell, and we have all the visualizations as we are told over the generations by people. So, in the post death navigation, Matthew says that at the moment of death, we lose our senses, our nervous system, and all that has anchored us to the world. We lose our families and goals in life. We find ourselves in a place where a thought creates visions, where a mere idea projects images that can capture and overwhelm us. The physical world is gone, and for a time, we may not be able to hear or recognize the spirits that have come to help us. The love we feel for our soul group and guides may be masked for us. So, if we are ignorant about what happens after death, if we are not prepared enough, if we are not having that knowledge that what's going to happen, and if we keep avoiding the topic of death, or if we keep avoiding discussing about it, then that may cause this kind of blurring vision, that even if the spirit guides come to help you, to guide you, we will not be able to recognize them. So, in this confusion, souls struggle to get their bearings. Some don't recognize that they are dead. Some are so attached to the people and things of the past that they cling to the physical plane. Some are filled with emotions, fear, anger, grief, shame, greed, that obscure the life of the spirit. And some souls expect nothing, an extinction of consciousness, and can't understand why they are still thinking and aware even outside their bodies. How come the spirit keeps thinking even when they have vacated their bodies? So they are still under that confusion. The time immediately after death is disorienting. This is because a soul who is newly crossed over is still an amnesiac. They don't know what they know. How we communicate and navigate in spirit has been forgotten. How to focus our energy in spirit has temporarily been lost. All that we've learned in the past lives remains a vague dream. For example, we see in all directions. We move by intention rather than physically walking. We hear telepathically rather than listening to the sound and words. We connect through the medium of love rather than touching or holding or conversing. So, at this moment, having been separated from our body, we need to remember who we are, where we are going, and how to get there. That is one purpose of this book. It is a navigational guide to death and the afterlife. It is a resource you will know what to expect, how to prepare, and what to do as you move through the primary early phases of life after death. Then we come to the life purpose and learning why you are here. Each soul at each incarnation enters a body, a family, a social context, a moment in history destined to teach important lessons. As we all know that Earth is considered as a soul, a school where we've come here to have learning experiences. So each incarnation to Earth likewise induces a forgetting of all that has gone before. We forget so that we can learn the lessons we came here in this incarnation. And learning why we are here, what all we are going to learn is entirely up to us. We are let loose here because we have forgotten why we came here for. And it depends on our choices each day and over all the years of our life. And why we entered the body is another reason for this book, as Matthew McKay says. So, one reason is to see it as a navigational guide for life after death, and the other reason is to tell us about our life purpose, how we can know the purpose of our life. Death cannot be understood unless the purpose of life is also recognized. So, we are not here to be redeemed, proven worthy, or to earn a high station in heaven. We are here, Jordan says, to love and to learn. Death merely facilitates moving from the physical dimensions into the world of spirit. Our life as a soul has the same goals here and in the afterlife. And what are those goals? To evolve and to grow. Our amnesia, forgetting why we are here and what happens in the afterlife, can be broken in many ways. So there are meditations that can pierce the veil, or there are drugs, trance states, deprivations like food, sleep, and oxygen, and cultivated forms of pain. As we talk of the samadhis and different kinds of meditations. The Egyptian and Tibetan books of dead and the Upanishads and so many mystical and sacred texts have grown from such altered state. The visions in these ancient texts were driven by the experiences and sometimes the needs of the dreamer. So, demons, figures of judgment, evil spirits show up in this literature because such images tap into the root fears of every human. But these images of hell, devils, and malicious spirits don't represent any spiritual reality. They are merely human projections. So, here, what Jordan seeks is to explain these visions and uh, clear all the clouds on these misconceptions. Jordan channeled this book to offer four things that every soul needs. What are those four things? One, to know why we are here. Second, to know what to expect at death and transition. Third, to know how to navigate without a body. And fourth, to know our work in the spirit world. Jordan has died many times, gone to the afterlife, and returned here to live in another place and time and body. He remembers all of it. This is his story and the fruit of all that he has learned. So, friends, Jordan is here not just as Matthew McKay's son, but as the author introduces this to us, that Jordan, as a spirit, has taken many births and how he is uh, moving through all these births and what kind of learnings he has got and how he is communicating now is being shown in this book. And we are going to go through it chapter wise and see for ourselves and understand uh, with our own experiences all the transitions that are being talked about. So I welcome you all once again to this book. The first chapter here is My Death and Transition. Jordan says, I felt cold oddly, even though I was out of my body. So, this is the place where, as Matthew McKay has just introduced us, that how Jordan was killed by some people who wanted to steal his bike, and he was accosted by them. And as they all fought, he was breaking away, he was trying to move away from them. Jordan was shot in the back. And that was how he died in this accident. And here, Jordan is telling through channeling, as he says, as a sense of shock, I'd been knocking on a door. I thought I had lost consciousness and come to again. But I wasn't quite in my body. So this shows that even when the body was shot and the soul leaves the body, it has that awareness that I was not in my body, but I was a little above it. My body was slumped below. I was examining myself to see what was wrong, but couldn't figure out why I was outside my body. I couldn't seem to move. I willed my arm to move, to pull upright. Nothing happened. And now I started to get alarmed. Not a physical anxiety when you feel the adrenal coursing through you, but a sense that something wasn't right and maybe never would again, as far as Jordan was concerned. It was a sense of severe disturbance. My body just lay there, and I started to notice that I was feeling detached from my body. I was a little farther above it when someone opened the door and looked at me. Again, I tried to move, but I was starting to understand that I couldn't. So, as the soul, Jordan could see his physical body lying down, and he felt that uh, if he's able to move his body parts, he wasn't able to do so. And then he realized that this is something disturbing that is happening. In the room, maybe somebody must have entered. There were voices. A car went by on the street. Okay, so this was not the place where he was kept. It is the road that he's talking about. So, on the road where he was being shot, he was lying there and his soul was a little above it. And he finds that there are voices around his physical body. A car went by on the street. The men who had shot had already left. I started to feel like it wasn't important, whatever was going on, and that too alarmed. So the soul here is in confusion whether he is actually living or he has died. I mean, he's not able to just clarify this thing that what is happening. And the street, the houses, the people in the houses seemed without any great significance as I looked around. And Jordan says that he was floating higher. I knew that wasn't right. Nothing had ever happened like this in my life as Jordan. It occurred to me that I was dead. And that struck me with horror, not so much for myself, but for everyone I loved, all that I was connected to. I was on my way home to Eliza. I was so sad at the thought that I couldn't reach her or talk to her. The sadness continued as I thought about my mom and dad, my sisters, my friends. I was gone. This hovering ghost out of their lives, the panic of disconnection for me was intense. Maybe it was because I was young. He was just 23, as we are being told here. So he says, maybe it was because I was young, so fully in my life, so fully expecting to live, that this shock of loss stayed with me. I thought of the route. I thought, Jordan says, I just had a thought of the route to the flat I shared with Eliza and found myself covering that ground very quickly, almost instantly. I simply went through the wall to our bedroom and watched her sleep. So it's not just that physical walking, but he just thought and reached his friend's room there and watched her sleep. I would never hold or talk to her again. It was a feeling not of tears, but a sense of time stretching out without each other, a bleakness. In this state, I visited my friend Maushi. He immediately awoke, feeling a deep disturbance in the room that he interpreted as evil. So, as we also must have had this kind of an experience, that we have that sinister kind of a feeling at times, and we feel that there is somebody around. There is a feeling of some presence around us. So he says, I visited my friend and I visited my sleeping parents, more careful now not to disturb them. When I thought of someone and pictured where they are, I could be there. But if I couldn't visualize their location, I seemed blocked to get to them. So now I can be with anyone, Jordan says. I want instantly just by thinking of them. But then in the first hours after my death, I could only go to places which I knew well. All this visiting, by the way, happened when I still seemed anchored to that street. I would think of and see someone I loved, but I still at the same time seemed to remain near my body. So he was not uh, going anywhere far away, but he was somewhere there only. And he witnesses that as a soul, he witnesses that paramedics came uh, to the physical body that was lying dead there. And they rolled me over, pulled open my clothes, examined me. Somehow, this strengthened my awareness that Jordan was gone. He was dead. That body so familiar, so me, wasn't me anymore. With great sadness, I could feel a severing, a letting go of my attachment to the Jordan as a physical being. And as this happened, things just got gray. It wasn't like I was going anywhere, up to some heaven or into a tunnel, but my surroundings just faded and disappeared. I think I no longer wanted to be there, to see my body touched and moved and prodded, to see people standing around me, talking or reacting in whatever they say. I just didn't want to see it. So the physical elements of the scene dissolve. So what Jordan is saying is that whatever he was thinking, it was happening. He wanted to visit people, so he just had to think, and he was there near them at their place. And now that he says that I didn't want to see whatever was happening here, I didn't want to see my physical body. So things started disappearing or getting faded. And this brings us to the next heading, that is reaching the landing place. So Jordan says, I don't know where I was, and that held its own alarm. And I could hear something like wind, but it was probably more like breath. I was moving with a sense, uh, with no sense of direction. He was just moving and moving and moving away. And while Jordan still had sense of arms and legs, he held them close. He says that I could feel that my energy was compact. And at some point, there was more light, as if the morning sun was just starting to penetrate a mist. I thought it was the sun because I died at night and I had strange moment of relief that day was dawning. Another day, life or some form of it. But the light ultimately became brighter than any dawn, and shapes, tall, vertical shadows began to appear in the mist. The shadows gradually clarified, and I saw that they were souls, my father and mother, my sisters. But I couldn't figure out how they could be here when they aren't dead. So he could see the souls of his father and mother, sisters, And he says, my soul knowledge, the awareness of all that I have learned in my lives and in the spirit world still wasn't available to me. I thought of the home where I grew up in Berkeley, and it appeared. I thought of Barrett's house, and I could see that. I thought of my job, and I could see my computer and desk and all that was on it. There was jumble of stuff around me, remnants of Jordan's life that seemed real, but they were just images made of energy I was projecting. All this was happening lightning fast, and I could feel a hand touching me, urging me to slow down. I received this information telepathically. I could also feel love bathing me, radiating from the souls around me, but also from the light itself. Someone, a guide perhaps, asked me to select one image that could stabilize the scene. So it's happening in with the speed of light. All these thoughts are coming to him, and somebody, maybe a spirit guide or somebody, asked him to select one image, and he chose a meadow. And he says that as I thought about it, the Berkeley house and the rest of the clutter started to disappear. And now I was in the beautiful meadow with my mom and dad and sisters and some other souls farther off, but coming towards me. And I wasn't sure whether I was making up whatever I was thinking, I was making up, it was real or what. And I imagined an elephant, and there it was. I thought of as a sci-fi monster, and it was right next to the elephant. And the monster and the elephant started fighting, stomping around, and I could feel the ground shake. And he says that things were appearing and disappearing depending on what I was paying my attention to. So, whatever he was thinking, it was appearing. Whatever he was not paying attention to, it was disappearing. I had no idea how to control this. My family was there, but fading in and out, and as I struggled to manage the scene. After a while, and with the help, I think, with the help of the spirit guide, I think, I started to realize it's like learning to coordinate the knobs on an etch a sketch. One knob is your attention, one knob is your intention. If all you turn is the attention knob, you will see whatever you think about. The intention knob is what you want to see or create. Intention won't work without clear attention, and vice versa. So, this is what here Jordan talks about, that what was happening was that I was paying attention to whatever things that I knew as I was in my physical body, my mom, my dad, my sisters, my friends, my best friend. And he was bringing about that attention to them, and they were appearing. And when he wanted to uh, get out of that with that intention, he was able to have them faded also, because he knew now that he has left his body and now he is dead and he has to move on. But intention won't work. This is a very important point that uh, Jordan talks about here. And we will conclude with this statement today, that uh, intention won't work without clear attention, and vice versa. So it seemed like a good while before Jordan got used to the way thought creates energetic and vibrational shifts in that turn and creates images. So Jordan found himself doing it as a form of meditation, where you anchor your focus on one thing to calm the frantic shifting and morphing of images. And it seemed like the thing I focused on was a sound, but it was love, a deep sense of love communicated from the beings around me. So, friends, as you can see, that what he was able to pay attention to was the love that he got from his parents, from his sisters, from his friends, which, and the first thought that came was of Eliza, with whom he was sharing that apartment. So he finds that deep sense of love. That was the means of communication at that particular point. So The stream of love contained knowledge, not in the form of words, but as whole concepts, a complex understanding. So, here, friends, we are going to end today's session. I hope uh, we are all together in this journey and able to understand as our own spiritual experiences what Jordan is trying to convey to us. Thank you so much for today, for listening to me so patiently. Thank you.
Kiran ma'am, thank you so much for the wonderful book, ma'am. It's just not a book, and it is an experience. And I just thoroughly enjoyed it. It's really, I really felt all of this moments that you were describing. I really felt all of those, and I witnessed. I mean, I felt as if I was witnessing all of those moments. And thank you very much for taking all of us through it. And I believe, same is the case with the other masters. Anuradha ma'am, would you like to add a few words? Anuradha Vasish ma'am. Anita ma'am. Kamaljit ma'am. Kamaljit ma'am, please.
The spirit word, actually. Uh, yes. Means we are not taking soul as just a soul. It is a uh, vast, very vast view. So, in the book, I think it is described about the soul and how the communication takes place, and